Hi, this is Arik,
And Aurelia.
and we're going to talk about life and interesting things.
So we think, but in the end, we let you be the judge of that.
Either way, what we have to talk about is Ageless!
Ageless!
Hi, Aurelia.
Hi, Arik.
It's a pleasure to be here with you once again. Yeah, because it's like a different space, during the Ageless. I read one of the reviews on podcasts. Someone said that they're so grateful that we open up our private dialogue, for the public to hear and everything.
Yeah, we do.
So, with that said, I've now sanctioned the Ageless Podcast energy. So, my first question today is like, what's the difference and what is between a spiritual war and a spiritual battle?
Okay.
Or what's the spirit? Yeah.
Pretty quickly answered. A spiritual war is us living here in this world, in this reality. That's basically a spiritual war.
Why?
Because we continuously have to stand up against temptation. And then a spiritual battle is if you have already identified something that is coming up, like some ego pattern or something, and you battle that or fight that in the moment. Like, you take care of it, you use your tools, whatever your tools are.
So whatever the tools are, okay. Do you think that the ego, so the war is between like our higher self, like our essential self, our free will, and our ego, or what's the war between?
Yeah, like our higher self and
Lower
the
self.
lower self, if you call it like that, like the 1% reality versus the 99% reality.
What is that?
Well, that is, like what we experience here is just like a tiny part of who we are.
That's right. So who do you think says this more, the essential self or the lower self? You may have won the battle, but I have won the war.
I think that's a trick question.
Yeah. But so the way I understand it is like then the battles that we face are part of the war, you know.
Always, just like
Yeah.
in a real life kind of war. I mean, you have the Second World War, for example, and you have many different battles in many different locations.
Yeah, I mean there were seer. It's interesting you mentioned that about World War One because there were many seers and sages that time that they could see the dark energy over Europe, before it happened, like this, and with World War Two, like the dark energy, how it was, like the wars in the real world are manifest or expressions of the spiritual wars that have just gotten out of control, like
Yeah.
that have been lost, I guess, in a way. Because I think that if we're really winning our quote unquote spiritual, I mean, I hate to say it like that, but like, our quote unquote spiritual, our inner wars, let's just call it like that, then we wouldn't have external war.
Yeah, I mean, I'm convinced of that because if we would really be taking care of our inner battles and thereby our inner war, then we would never blame or complain. And it is said that what contributes, if not creates, wars is the energy of complaining.
Yeah.
And the energy of complaining inherently has the energy of blaming with it.
So would you say like the energy of complaining and blaming is essentially the energy of hatred
Yeah, I mean, if you go all the way,
and
then of course,
rejection?
because it's rejection, and rejection goes from like the mild of like, I don't like that, but in an opinionated way, all the way down to murderous rage and hatred.
Yeah, like Actually, I can feel. Recently, I was under some what's called like a psychic attack or judgment. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's the same thing. Like, you know, being judged, and that would be like part of the spiritual war, right?
Yes.
Because I don't know if anybody else has experienced that, but I mean, of course, I'm sure you have, or maybe you will put two and two together after I explain it. But when I have felt like I'm being judged, aka being under psychic attack, uh, it's different. It's interesting because it feels different every time, a little bit. Like also depending on where it's coming from, but it's also like an opportunity for me to also see where I stand
Mm.
with that judgment, because I truly believe that every moment is quote unquote judgment day.
Mm.
You know, like it's not like some apocalypse
Mm.
energy that's, you know, like I really feel, you know, every moment is judgment day. Like,
Yes.
you know, you're being judged, you see where you stand on your path. And I think that a lot of times, um, a lot of people, they get caught up in this Hollywood idea that life is just like a cakewalk and it's not supposed to be like this spiritual war, but it's supposed to be like this rainbow happy ending, happily ever after kind of like entitlement thing, which I'm, you know, of course it is also supposed to be good, but I think like how would you describe the balance between like being in the spiritual war but also being happy?
Well, I think, if you use the holiday version of walking off in the sunset, then that could be like planting those ideas would be, if we call the enemy like Satan or the devil or whatever, like then that would be one of his greatest tricks, because it's like, I don't know if anybody talking Hollywood has seen the movie The Devil's Advocate. And there it's like, oh, I don't want to put out a
Yeah.
spoiler,
Yeah,
but
don't.
there it's very clear, like what I said, that one way or the other, like the devil always gets us.
Right.
And it's
Yeah.
when we exactly are in that supposedly so fulfilled state, because that's usually a state of complacency. Like, and if you look at, if we stay with movies and the story, like let's say, boy wants girl and girl wants boy, and so there's like they meet and it's, maybe good, but then they get together a little bit and then there's the crisis,
Mm-hmm.
and they really have to work hard and they have to do all these things and, change and transform and be honest. And so there's a lot of action really going on that is inner work.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, then finally here they're getting together and then they walk into the sunset. Like, now it's done. Now the complacency can set in. Now I got the boy, or, you got the girl, and now, yeah, we can become couch potatoes, put our feet up, and, enjoy.
Retire.
Yeah. And that's just a big, big, big trap, because whenever we end up in a state of complacency, may it be for a romantic relationship or may it be for an achievement we go for in the workplace, or a creative endeavor, it really doesn't matter. Whenever we have that feeling of, yes, I arrived and now there is this happily ever after, our energy instantly goes down,
Mm-hmm.
and no, we may lose more than we have gained.
Mm-hmm. It's
And then we
interesting.
lost the battle.
Then you've lost the battle.
Yeah.
And you need to win battles in order to win the war.
Yes. If I win all the battles, I mean, winning the war is a no-brainer.
So as soon as we forget that we're in the war, we've already lost.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the biggest thing of the devil, like to convince us he doesn't exist. And
Right.
so then, everything is just a happily ever after.
It's really interesting what you said, like, kind of like how the two things that really stuck out were this idea of complacency and complaining.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like kind of like how they oscillate between each other. Like, if I'm not complacent, then I'm complaining, and if I'm
Mm-hmm.
not complaining, then I'm complacent.
Mm-hmm.
like this going back and forth thing.
Yeah.
And one fuels the other. And if we understand that it's the cosmic law that complaining contributes to war, then so does complacency.
Yes.
Because it fuels the other side of complaining.
Mm-hmm.
It's really interesting. And in the middle, we have crisis.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. I haven't thought of it that way, but yes.
Yeah, because then we have crisis. I mean, that's just what you
Yeah,
say.
I said
Yeah,
it, but I haven't
yeah,
thought
yeah.
about it in,
No,
in
this
that
is how we
bigger
work.
picture.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is how we
great.
work. So then you have crisis, and we have all kinds of. Oh yeah, you want to say something? Yeah. Then we have all kinds of crises in between that. Now, before I get into my next question, that's coming from that, I can just tell you for myself, I totally know this happily ever after idea because I mean, coming up from a extremely abusive family, as soon as I got into a healthy environment, I felt like, oh yeah, like wow, this is amazing. Like of course that was all my fate, and I attracted all these really crazy people into my reality, and I had to really get through all that and everything, and I had to go through all these versions of myself, and get attacked along the way, and it can always feel them when they're attacking some old version of myself and whatnot, and but when I got into a healthy environment with healthy relationships, and really being able to be myself, which is healthy, health is good, that of course pisses off the enemy.
Yes.
Which is, and I'm not saying these people are the enemy, but their ego controls them, and then therefore they become an enemy.
Yeah, and it can be as easy as a bucket of crabs,
Mm-hmm.
that they just don't want you to have a happy life because they're not happy. So, who are you to just get out of the toxic?
I can tell you why. Because I said this and I did that, and I did all these things,
Yeah.
and you guys can apply this into your own life. It's like being held accountable. I think, one of our dear friends said, well, it's been like, about her own situation. She's like, it's been 35 years. You'd think you'd be over it by now. It's like, that's something that, like, but I mean, really, seriously. So, but yeah, but then when I realized, so like, I never really felt like attracted to this idea of retirement and complacency, but I did feel like I had this like exhale of like, I'm glad that's over. And I realized also that, whenever I was getting caught up in this, well, you said this and you did that and you did this, and then I realized, so someone who's getting caught up in this he said, she said thing means they have not changed. I have changed, but they have remained.
Yeah.
And so the timeline goes on.
That's right. They are stuck in that moment whenever it was. You said that or you did that, and how our friend said that, you talked about, gosh, it's 35 years later. Get over it already. If you fight your battles, to bring it back to that, then you will see, oh gosh, I said that and I did that. Oh my God, that was really not cool. Or I did this and I did that. Well, that was necessary. That was a necessary response that I had to, box my way out of that cage or whatever.
Right.
But then if somebody is just stuck on that, that means they are stuck.
Yeah, like where I went through my crisis.
Yes.
And I went through it. And that it wasn't easy, but I avoided the complacency and the complaining.
Yes.
And I went through the crisis.
Yes.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
So that actually leads me into my next question is, what, like, about these crises, is like, what is a crisis of faith or a spiritual crisis or any other crises that you know about? Like, what is that?
Well, generally speaking, a crisis will always occur, when your environment all of a sudden does not match up with your inner environment, let's call it that way.
Whoa.
Then you experience a crisis.
But so this could be going either way, I guess.
I don't know what you mean with either
It
way.
could be like, say that you are like, maybe like your inner environment is not so good, and then your outer environment is like better.
Mm-hmm.
That could make like a crisis.
Yeah.
Or you could have a good inner environment and then the outer one's not so good. Then that could also be a crisis. That's what I
Mm-hmm.
mean. Like, it could
Yes.
be either way.
Yes. Either way. And in the first case, I mean, it could be that then you start sabotaging,
Right. Oh,
you
yeah.
know? If you're like not looking at, oh, this is a crisis and now I have to work,
Mm-hmm.
to balance this out and to
Mm-hmm.
make this even and see, where is it lacking and where is it not on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, fight that battle. Then often if it's like on automatic, then people sabotage their outer environment, so
That's
to
really
speak.
interesting because I just feel like a lot of people are in this kind of crisis since the whole, COVID thing, like questioning everything and looking back, like, at the 2010s and the 20, like,
Mm-hmm.
the
2000s.
2000s and the 90s and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Then you look back and you say, wow, times were so much simpler. But going through it, you didn't feel that way.
Mm-mm. Not
and
at
and
all.
and so I feel like it's this, you know this crisis energy can, once again, if you're not really going through it and being present with what's available, you're either in this complacency
Yeah.
of, yeah, I check my feed, I do my 9 to 5, or I do my my noon to one, or whatever it is that whatever it is that you do, and you do all these things like through the 90s and the 2000s and the 2010s, and your complacency, but then that just contributes to now complaining in the 2020s.
Yes, that's right.
It's like, no, there's crisis throughout both. Whereas, when there is not really so much external crisis, then you have internal crisis to work on.
Yes.
But now we have external crisis, so we can, kind of ignore our internal crises. Ha ha ha,
So we
or
think.
so we think. But I think having external and internal crisis would actually flip the scales to really go through both.
Yes, that would be amazing.
Because, to always keep it in balance.
Yes, there's a lot of opportunity right now, and we have been talking about that a long, long, long time ago. And not like you said, yeah, well, maybe, the 90s or the 2000s or the 2010s or whatever, they weren't all that great. I mean, there was stuff going on, but stuff that we could happily ignore.
Right.
And we
Right.
did not use
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
in order to really better ourselves, but we would just, in that
We did it
complacently,
to create
just
this.
exactly
Yeah.
that crisis, that wake up call,
Yeah.
like where then we have inner and outer crisis, because that, yes, I mean, the situation that we're in as a collective, the pandemic, let's just call it,
Yeah.
that definitely is an outer crisis. There is like no way
Mm-hmm.
around that. But also, we know that this has created and is creating inner crisis
Mm-hmm.
more and more and more, because there's so many people are depressed. There's so many suicides. There are like so many like visuals about the crisis that is really not handled, like battles and in suicide wars that have been lost.
Yeah. Yeah.
That it's really quite intense to see.
Yeah, like what I'm understanding about this is that, like, when we don't face our internal crises and then meet with our external crises, what happens, or crises, excuse me, is that when we neglect it, we automatically create this ego force which is then giving energy to the negative, like in the war, the
force,
negative
yeah.
force
The
that we're
enemy.
battling, the enemy, the battling, and in the war.
Yeah.
And I think this is really interesting because when you forget that you are in this war, then I understand then that's how you've lost, because you're creating this externalized ego energy, which is what we're facing now.
Yes.
And then that manifests through people.
Yeah.
I don't want to
Definitely,
elaborate on that,
yeah.
but then, in the same way that people can channel angels, people can also channel demons.
Yes.
And if like you drink a lot of alcohol, or if you do drugs, or if you're very emotional, or if you're depressed,
Yeah.
these are all openings to channel these negative energies. But if you're happy and you're appreciative, not in this rainbow, like happily
No,
ever
not
after energy,
really.
but grateful for that
Yeah.
I can fight the battle. I am here in this material realm to do that, and you're happy about it, then you can channel angels and you
Yeah.
can win more battles.
Yeah, because, hey guys, I can tell you something about what happened last night, for example. Like, even though we have 9 p.m. curfew here, we are allowed to go out because we're allowed to walk the dog. So we were in the park, and there's usually, there's nobody there. And it was maybe 9:30 or something like that. And we're walking, and it's good. And all of a sudden, I feel like I'm hit with a bulldozer, and I'm almost, buckling my knees, or how you say, like, and I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? And so I see, a dog like has one of these collars that light up like pink, really cute.
Raver collar.
Yeah. And it went off. Like all of a sudden that light was gone, and I turn around, and there's this guy coming, maybe, I don't know how much was it, 30 meters back or something like that. And he had really bad energy. He had really bad energy, and that energy, like he was hosting. I mean, I know this sounds really crazy and far out, but bear with us. It is the truth, whether you believe it or not. Like, this is a demonic force that rides on people who have negative energy, and he could have just been depressed or, yes, drunk or this or the other thing, but the truth is, he brought with him a slew of demonic energy so strong that it literally knocked me almost off my feet and turned off the light in the collar of our dog.
Yeah.
And after that, our dog went crazy.
Yeah, she did. Because she feels it.
Yeah, she's very sensitive, like all animals are.
Yeah,
I mean, you have
feel
heard, like, they feel when an earthquake is coming, or,
Yeah.
Something like that. They all feel that.
Trust your dog if they don't like someone.
And so it was really intense, and then we,
Unless they're crazy.
hurried home, and we sprayed ourselves with aura, and we did our rituals, and then it was okay. But so just as a proof, if you need it. I mean, of course, it's not a proof because to you it's hearsay, but it's still, if you believe me, then it could be proof.
If you believe us, it's proof. You can fact check it.
Yeah. So to what Arik said, that we can channel positive and negative angels.
Yeah, absolutely. And all kinds of people do it, and once again, it's like it could be that the negative angel within you is attracted to a negative person.
Yeah.
Or you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
it doesn't matter. It's someone you know or someone you don't know. It doesn't matter. It could be some negativity in you that's attracted to some negativity with someone else. And also positivity, But the thing is, of course, it's very difficult to tell the difference. I really like this person. Okay, why and who and what is saying that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I don't know. So, like, what can we do? Because, sometimes it's very easy to get, like, for example, depressed. Like I feel I'm optimistic and happy about the future. I mean, I always talk about everything that's going on, but I think that's probably why I'm optimistic and happy about the future, because a lot of my stuff's been censored, and sometimes, like, I've been called a little bit ominous and stuff like that, but it's like, no, it's like, actually, when I lay it all out there and I see what I'm facing, then I'm happy, and like, I'm doing really exciting things because of it. If I was like getting depressed because I can't travel, or I couldn't do all the things in 2020 that I had lined up because everything got shut down and you couldn't get together with people and you couldn't go from here to
Mm.
there, yeah, of course, like, if I would have gotten depressed, I wouldn't have opened all these amazing doors for things that I'm doing now, which I'm really happy
Mm.
about. And also this,
Podcast included.
yeah, exactly. And also having like all these amazing opportunities, and a lot of people want to be on our podcast, but we've declined because it's just no one.
Us talking.
Yeah, it's us talking, and no one has really, yeah. Either way, so it's like, I think it's important to confront the reality and to not argue with it, because it's a unique situation.
Mm.
And sometimes people are like, I don't want to talk about it, the pandemic, and oh my God, I'm so overwhelmed. It's like, yeah, you have to respect that. But also, it's like, it's also necessary, like something that we have to go through, because then you can be happy. And I just know that from my own suffering.
And you have to talk about it without complaining.
Right.
Because, see, if you complain,
Mm-hmm.
then chances are you get depressed.
Yeah.
But if you just talk about it and like remind yourself that, oh my God, there are other things that I can do, and now I cannot go out so much, so I can, use the time to meditate more, or, to really look
Yeah,
into
that's a good one.
myself. But once again, because people are so hooked on their rainbow walk into the sunset reality, that then they think, what, instead of partying, I should meditating. And I say, yeah, you should have done that since the 90s,
Right.
It's
Right.
like, then they don't want that. And
Mariteit
then they,
90.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
genau.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
Mm-hmm.
then they get all into this complaining mood, and from that complaining mood, things contract,
Yeah.
and then we are closing the circle, and we're back. We lost another battle.
Yeah. So no, I'm really optimistic, and I'm happy, and I share that with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I totally agree, like, you cannot complain. Like, when I meet people in the street and they start complaining, like, I just start shifting the conversation, like,
Mm-hmm.
focusing on the good things that you have. And honestly, that was even before pandemic, because
Totally.
before the pandemic, it was complaining about the weather. I haven't heard many people complain about the weather in a while.
Mm.
So it's like, it's the human
Funny.
propensity to complain about the weather,
Mm.
or just about anything. So no, I'm really optimistic, and I feel like there are a lot of new doors opening. And you want to know why? Because all that magic is there.
Yes, it
And
is.
magic and crisis are in the same house,
Mm-hmm.
eighth astrological house.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So yeah,
I
absolutely.
love
So
it.
definitely you can learn more about that in my tarot classes. But I'm also in the process of getting my zodiac hacks classes all online and everything, so people can learn
Hey guys, that's
um,
really exciting. I've been pushing him to do that for a
astrology.
year. Yeah,
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 it's
yeah.
it's cool. It's a work in progress,
Mm-hmm.
but it's gonna be really good with the book, so people can really go deeper, because I can I cannot read 8 billion charts, so I would like people to learn how to really do it themselves
Mm-hmm.
in the right way, and
Yeah.
then also that they can do it for people in their lives, and they can learn how to just really
Mm-hmm.
understand all these things, like magic and crisis in the same
Yeah, I
house.
love
and,
it.
and
Mm-hmm.
that's how you can access the magic,
Mm-hmm.
is by going through the crisis. And
Yes.
uh, yeah, I'm kind of talkative in this podcast, but I think it's just the yang energy to your yin. So uh,
No, I think
mm-hmm.
it's amazing because, um, how should I say it? Like, because Okay, I have to start over with the sentence. It is because you feel so positive about things, and like,
Mm-hmm.
and your channel is positivity. So I believe, this is what makes you really talkative about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then to know when to speak and to be silent, like when everything is said. Like, for example, I mean, our experience is pretty much limited with walking our dog,
Mm-hmm.
but like you said yesterday, like it's a law here. We have to have dogs on a leash, and I mean forever and ever, like we have been shamed because we abide by this law. First of all, it's the law. Secondly, we have a Shiba Inu, and like the race is not to be allowed off leash, and
Mm-hmm.
that's just that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, most people do not understand that they have like their poodles and their little Maltese, and I mean, nothing against these dogs, they are really, really cute. However, they also must not shame us for having our dog on the
That would be an
leash.
attack, right?
That's
Because
an
it's a
attack.
judgment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have been in this situation many, many, many times, and we have explained to all of them why this is not okay, and how we even seen like one of these big greyhound dogs. He was off leash and he was running and he was excited, and he, lost his footing and he ran smack into a tree. Thank God it was only his head that got hurt. Could have been another dog, that
Yeah.
he landed on, or it doesn't matter. What I want to say is that people with this attitude, like now, they try to prove something by breaking that law because they feel
Mm.
so suppressed with having to wear masks and to not being able to go out, and so here now they can do that. However, what happened yesterday morning? There were immense fights in the park
With the dogs off the leash.
with the dogs off the leash.
Yeah.
Like the dogs
And
amongst
then the people start fighting,
themselves
yeah.
got aggressive and
Mm-hmm.
attacked each other. What dogs do? I mean, you have a pack of dogs, the animal nature comes through, and who cares what Herrchen says? It's like you're a dog and you want to fight for your rank in the pack.
Mm-hmm.
And so they did. And then the people, of course, the humans, they also
They
started to be
followed
aggressive.
suit.
Yes.
Yeah, it was really intense.
Mm-hmm. And this is just
And
to.
Saya was just staring like, you guys are crazy.
And
Mm-hmm.
so here you see it. Like, this is what's going on, when you do not take care of your inner battles. And that's really just a small example because, I mean, by all means, it's not atomic war that happened in our park. But it was aggressive.
Yeah.
It was blatant aggression.
It contributes.
Yes.
God forbid should that ever
It
happen.
does. Mm-hmm.
God only knows.
And so why I'm bringing that up is that we have to really take even these supposedly small instances
Mm-hmm.
serious,
Yeah.
because they're all parts of a reflection of inner battles that we can fight and win, or that we can have accumulate and lose.
Nice. Beautiful. So we'll let you guys think about that, and then we'll talk a little bit more about this in future episodes. So this has been Arik,
And Aurelia,
and you've just listened to an episode of
Ageless.
Subscribe everywhere where podcasts are streamed, and please share this with anyone in your world. Until next time, bye.
Bye.